The Trump administration doesn't want to admit it, but America is losing the chip war, and losing fast. While Trump boasts about tariffs and quick victories, China is laying the foundation for the future. Huawei has launched a 3-year plan to challenge Nvidia, and this fight goes far beyond semiconductors. It's about who will control artificial intelligence, global networks, and the digital backbone of the 21st century. Trump's rushed tariffs and poorly planned restrictions haven't weakened China. They've forced Beijing to innovate faster and build systems the US can no longer dictate. Huawei's roadmap makes that clear. As Washington throws billions into one massive gamble, Nvidia's $100 billion deal with OpenAI, China is spreading investments across renewable-powered AI hubs, creating what many already call a digital empire in the deserts. The US may still lead in advanced chip design, but China is pulling ahead in efficiency, scale, and independence. This isn't just an economic battle. It's a struggle over power, security, and who defines the next century of technology. So stay with me, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications, because we're diving into how America is stumbling, how China is rising, and why Trump's strategy may cost the US far more than it realizes. The fight over chips is no longer hidden in boardrooms or research labs. It is now open, global, and fiercely competitive. Every major power understands that semiconductors determine the future of both economies and militaries. These chips train artificial intelligence, power high-speed networks, secure infrastructure, and even enable governments to monitor populations. Whoever controls them will define the next era of technology. In January 2025, Donald Trump staged a high-profile event at the White House to show America's determination. Standing beside Sam Altman of OpenAI, Masayoshi Son of SoftBank, and Larry Ellison of Oracle, he unveiled a massive joint venture called Stargate. The message was clear. The US could not afford to lose the AI race. Stargate was launched with an immediate $100 billion commitment to build data centers and the power systems needed to run them. The partners promised that investment could rise to $500 billion within 4 years. Trump boasted it would create 100,000 American jobs. Construction began quickly in Texas with a data center campus the size of a city block, over 1 million square feet, and new power facilities were planned to support its enormous demand. The responsibilities were divided. SoftBank would carry much of the financial weight, OpenAI would handle operations, and MGX joined as another backer. Trump used the announcement to roll back several previous regulations on AI projects, promising faster approvals and fewer restrictions. But almost immediately, the shine wore off. Elon Musk accused the companies of exaggerating their resources, saying SoftBank had less than $10 billion available, nowhere close to its supposed share. He called the initiative fake, arguing it was designed more for headlines than substance. Energy analysts voiced another concern. Powering such massive data centers would put unbearable strain on America's already fragile electrical grid. And now, with Nvidia and OpenAI also declaring a $100 billion data center investment, the question becomes obvious. Where will the energy come from? The US has not built major new power infrastructure in decades, while China is breaking records with renewable megaprojects across deserts and provinces. Sam Altman pushed back, insisting that Musk's doubts were wrong and pointing to active construction in Texas as proof. But the damage was done. What Trump intended as a symbol of American strength was now seen as rushed, uncertain, and possibly built on shaky promises. And this is where the bigger picture comes in. The chip race is not only about America's projects, it is a head-to-head competition with China. Trump returned to office declaring that the US would never let Beijing take the lead. His administration slapped tariffs on Chinese tech, restricted exports of advanced chips, and poured subsidies into firms like Intel to keep America ahead. On the surface, it looked bold. But behind the speeches, the measures were rushed, blunt, and lacking in strategy. And the cracks are already showing. The Trump administration is being forced to confront a reality it long tried to avoid. The United States no longer holds a clear upper hand over China in the chip race. For years, Washington operated on the assumption that American semiconductors were irreplaceable. Export bans were expected to bring Beijing to its knees. That assumption is now collapsing. David Sachs, the White House's own AI czar, recently broke ranks with the official narrative. In a public warning on X, he admitted that China is no longer desperate for US chips. The reason is straightforward. China has been building its own. Two developments made this undeniable. First, Huawei, once thought crippled by US sanctions, unveiled a new chip designed to compete directly with Nvidia's. Second, Beijing ordered domestic firms to stop buying certain Nvidia AI chips altogether. Taken together, these moves sent a clear message. China has built enough capacity to survive without relying on American supply lines. Sachs noted that while Nvidia still leads in raw chip performance, Huawei is compensating by clustering large numbers of processors together, achieving results that challenge US dominance. This reversal is deeply unsettling for Washington. Export controls were supposed to be a powerful weapon. Instead, they became the catalyst for China's independence. What was meant to cripple Beijing has only accelerated its innovation drive. The Trump administration, convinced of permanent US superiority, misjudged China's determination and its vast resources. And now, with Huawei advancing and Beijing reshaping the semiconductor market, the United States faces the risk of being overtaken. Sachs urged a dramatic rethink. He called for US chipmakers to be allowed to sell abroad, even to China, under controlled conditions. Otherwise, he warned, America could lose the AI race altogether. Coming from an official inside the administration, this was a remarkable shift. The debate is no longer about how to stop China. It is about how not to be left behind. Inside Washington, fear is growing. If China no longer needs US chips, America's leverage disappears. Tariffs, sanctions, and restrictions become meaningless. Worse, companies like Nvidia and Intel could lose billions in revenue while Chinese firms rapidly expand their market share. The very strategy that was supposed to protect American dominance is now threatening its own tech industry. And officials know this goes beyond semiconductors. It is about global influence. The chip war was meant to prove that the United States could dictate the technological future. Instead, it is exposing the limits of American power. China's rise is no longer a distant scenario. It is unfolding right now. And in Washington, the sobering realization is setting in. The United States may no longer be the one writing the rules. The most striking evidence of this shift came when Huawei announced a 3-year campaign to challenge Nvidia in artificial intelligence chips. At its annual conference, Huawei's rotating chairman, Eric Xu, did something rare for a Chinese executive. He admitted that Huawei's chips still cannot match Nvidia in raw speed or peak performance. That kind of candor is unusual in corporate competition. But what came next was even more important. Xu outlined a roadmap not focused on imitation, but on strategy, on outsmarting rather than outpacing. Huawei's plan rests on 3 pillars. First, brute force computing. Instead of relying on a single, ultra-powerful chip, Huawei is building systems that link thousands of processors together to perform as one. The approach is less about having the fastest component and more about scaling the collective power of many. Second, networking strength. Huawei's deep experience in global telecom infrastructure gives it an edge in connecting vast numbers of devices and systems. It knows how to move data quickly, securely, and across continents, an ability that becomes a multiplier when training massive AI models. Third, state-backed support. Beijing has made Huawei the symbol of its technological independence. That comes with subsidies, guaranteed roles in government projects, and a central place in China's long-term industrial strategy. Together, these pillars turn weakness into resilience. If Huawei cannot yet build the single most advanced chip, it will build the largest and most interconnected computing systems. By distributing workloads across networks, it avoids dependence on one breakthrough and instead creates a durable ecosystem where Chinese AI can thrive without Nvidia. The contrast with Washington could not be sharper. Trump's administration has relied on abrupt, headline-driven measures, tariffs imposed 1 week, export restrictions the next, and hurried deals with American firms to patch gaps. Huawei's campaign, on the other hand, is steady, disciplined, and designed to endure. It acknowledges present limitations while laying down a pathway toward independence. And this is why the 3-year plan matters. It is not a reaction born of panic, but a carefully structured strategy. It signals that China is investing, planning, and methodically building the foundations for a future where its AI industry can stand entirely on its own. The contradictions in Trump's strategy become obvious when you look at Nvidia's H20 chips. These processors were engineered specifically to meet US export restrictions. To comply, Nvidia stripped down the performance of its most advanced GPUs, reducing bandwidth, cutting compute capacity, and limiting features that would normally make them world-class. On paper, this allowed Washington to say restrictions were being enforced. In practice, it meant Chinese buyers could still purchase a weaker version of Nvidia's best technology. This balancing act highlights a deep flaw in US policy. American companies are being told to punish China while still being expected to keep their market share there. The result is an awkward halfway measure. The H20 chips are too limited to give China cutting-edge capabilities, yet still powerful enough to help fuel Beijing's AI programs. They deny China the very top tier, but they don't actually cut it off. It's a compromise that satisfies neither Washington nor the companies caught in the middle. And while the US plays this game of half measures, China is moving forward with a completely different strategy. Across the deserts of Inner Mongolia and Xinjiang, entire clusters of renewable-powered data centers are rising. These facilities, often called China's AI desert empire, integrate massive solar farms, wind turbines, and advanced cooling systems to support large-scale artificial intelligence workloads. The concept is straightforward. If the US holds an edge in individual chip performance, China will build computing power through scale, redundancy, and energy independence. The contrast is stark. America is concentrating billions of dollars into one giant corporate partnership, Nvidia and OpenAI's $100 billion gamble, placing enormous weight on a single project. China, by comparison, is spreading resources across dozens of ecosystems. If one data hub underperforms, another is already in development. This diversification creates resilience, while America's overconcentration magnifies risk. And this is where Trump's strategy backfires most. By imposing tariffs and restrictive rules in haste, he has encouraged Beijing to double down on self-sufficiency. Huawei's 3-year roadmap is only one piece of this larger vision. What is taking shape is not just a competitor to Nvidia, it is a sovereign technological ecosystem, deliberately built so China can never again be cornered by US sanctions. The chip war is no longer theory, it's unfolding in real time. China is building scale and independence, while America risks betting everything on shaky ground. And if Washington doesn't change course, it may soon find that the future of AI no longer runs through Silicon Valley. If you want to follow how this race develops and what it means for global power, make sure you're subscribed and have notifications on. See you in the next one.